Did some reading, and I read that a lot of Holocaust survivors did not talk about their experiences. I have a picture of your father when he was a little boy. How old were you and your father when he began to share his stories of what happened to him?
Well, when I was just a kid, I mean, I was so busy in high school, college, medical school that they didn't really spend a lot of time talking about it, although it did trickle into the conversations from time to time. My mom, also a survivor, and most of her family actually survived. She talked about the history more early on in my life. I did read my dad's story. The histories actually went from, my motivation was it went from paper and pencil to typewriter to a computer. My dad and mom collaborating my dad's autobiography in the 1970s. And then I did read the manuscript as a typewritten document. I didn't think much of it at the time, except for maybe one of his major escape, which stuck in my mind for many years. So
I'm gonna stop you right there because I read a little bit, but I didn't find the details. There was intrigue, there was espionage, there was forgeries. How did your father escape?
All right, so now my dad, when he was in the early 20s, when the Nazis finally affected the Hungarian Jews in 1943, 1944, my dad was conscripted into a forced labor camp in Hungary, and they were beaten and treated brutally and abused. And anti-Semitism is in the background of the whole book, including then. And meanwhile, my dad's parents were corralled and deported to Auschwitz, and he had no idea for months. There was no TV, no radio,
Yes.
no telegrams. And my dad eventually escaped. They were marching from place to place to place. They were starving much of the time. They had ridiculous work to do, but finally my dad had enough, and they were marching, and he thought he was on a death march in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and he and his friend just decided to take off right at dusk. That was his first out of several escapes.
Mm.
Later on, they got away. They ended up in Budapest. They got corralled by a double crosser,
Again,
as they would say,
yes.
and then they escaped again. So right in front of Nazi headquarters in Budapest. So that was his first two escapes. So this is the Nazi part. The cloak and dagger stories and the forged papers was during there were Wallenberg's papers that my dad and his best friend Frank had that helped them from time to time to move from point A to point B.
We don't hear many of the stories. I have a little video of, it's disturbing still to see, no matter how many times you see it, of the Jews being forced to march and headed to who knows where.